Hello, this is Todd Shank from Premier FPL here again. I am going to be doing the Game Week 16 Fantasy Premier League tips and my previews for the coming weekend. I'm going to start out with a kind of a quick review of my Game Week 15 points. Then I'll be discussing the upcoming Week 16 fixtures and then moving on to some player analysis. For this weekend, I'm going to be taking a look at the top FPL players, followed by taking a look at some of the most in-form players. Then to end things, take a look at some of the upcoming weeks using my Fantasy Premier League fixtures planner, and then also looking at some of the captain's picks for this weekend. Alright, so starting out, my team for last week, I had De Gea in goal, picked up 8 points for me, and then my backline, Azpilicueta, Francis, and Ward picked up a total of 6. Midfield, looking at it now, looking back at it, definitely should have gone with Hazard as captain. Easy enough to say in hindsight. Instead, I went with Kane up front, who just got the 2 points. But Hazard was my big hitter for the week with his 15 points in midfield. Gross and Sterling got the 2 points, and Richarlison just the 1, thanks to their draw there. Up front, Morata did well for me, grabbing another goal. So, Kane, again, just 2 points for the start in the draw there. And then Callum Wilson, just the 1 point with Southampton giving up the goal in that one. Didn't really do a whole lot of anything in that, just 21 minutes played. So, yeah, gonna have to consider some moves coming up here. I had originally moved up, I think, a good 300,000 places, and then everybody else's bench points came in, and that dropped me down a little bit, but still up from last week. So 47 points, again, just above the average. Not too terribly bad, but was hoping to do a little bit better. Really thought that Kane would come through in that match, but did not. So that really hurt me, especially could have had 30 points from Hazard. That would have been a massive boost for me, a 28 points difference in where I was at for the week. But like they say, hindsight's 20/20. So moving ahead to this week. So this weekend, I actually do need to do some updating here. Well, let's go. My article over at PremierSoccerChat.com for the Week 16 predictions I have up here. So, yeah, starting out, it's West Ham and Chelsea. Hard to see West Ham getting anything out of this. They might be able to push Chelsea. It is Moyes, after all, probably set up pretty defensively, but the way Chelsea's been playing lately, I just can't see past them getting a win in this. Hazard and Morata looking really good there, as well as any defensive options for Chelsea in that one. Watford and Burnley, I have that as a 0-0, but that's one I could definitely see going really any direction there. Easily see Burnley grabbing a goal on a set piece, or even one of their direct balls downfield, getting a goal off of that. But same thing with Watford. They have some pretty dynamic players. Could easily see them getting a goal, 2, 3 even. Guys like Richarlison, Decore can come up with goals seemingly out of nowhere. And now I'm thinking about it, pull up the injury list here and look at Watford. Will Hughes out for this week. Otherwise, I would have said he could be one to look at. They don't really have a whole lot of other options up front. I mean, you could go with Troy Deeney. That would be a huge differential, but it's kind of hit or miss with him. Moving on, Crystal Palace. I am still on board with Crystal Palace despite their performance last week. I have them down as a 1-0 win. Basically, I see this as a win for them. Could be 2 or 3. Bournemouth could get a goal in that one. Could kind of go either way as far as goals go, but Crystal Palace win is what I have there. Huddersfield and Brighton, I think that has draw written all over it. Huddersfield could come away with a win in that. But I don't know. There's not really a whole lot of fantasy value in that match as far as I'm concerned, unless you're looking for some big differential points in that. I mean, Gross is one. You never know what he could do in that, so could always go with him for the Brighton win in that one. Tottenham Stoke, I have it down as a 2-2 draw, primarily because of Tottenham's recent form, and Stoke has been all over the place. But with a lot of their players, they seem to step it up against some of these bigger sides, some of the teams that they see as like a top 4 team. Shaqiri has really been in form, fairly in form lately, grabbing goals in recent weeks. So he's one you could look at, as well as, still Choupo-Moting, getting goals in there, even Diouf up front. So those are 3 guys to look at for that one. Like I said, they're a team that tends to step up against some of these bigger clubs. And Tottenham's recent form has been pretty terrible, but I don't know, they're through in the Champions League, don't really have that to worry about. They can focus a little bit more on the Premier League, so I'm really hoping that they can turn things around. After all, I do have Kane in my team. I would say at this point, if you have Tottenham players, you probably just want to hang on to them. And if you don't have them, I wouldn't really worry about it. I think there are other teams out there that you can go ahead with. But they do have, after this Man City match, or even before it with the Brighton match here, but after the Man City match, they have a good string of matches that are good for them coming up. Swansea and West Brom, I mean, really, this is another one that could go either way. Swansea lately, I don't know that I want to say they're playing better. They're not losing by quite as many. And West Brom, with Pardew in charge, it's hard to say what's going to happen. I thought they would let in more goals last weekend, but ended up kind of holding off on the goals there. So I do still have this as a 0-0, just because I think it's one of the more likely ones to be kind of like a dull 0-0 for the week. I have Leicester City down for a win over Newcastle. Newcastle's been struggling lately, while Leicester City has started to hit some of their better form in recent weeks. Mahrez and Vardy, decent looks for this one. If you want to go a little bit more of on the cheaper side, differential, Demarai Gray has been getting some minutes and is a fairly dynamic player as well. I don't know that I would really trust their defense. I mean, with their defense, you're really relying on the clean sheet bonuses for them, not really grabbing a whole lot of goals or assists. Anyway, so moving on. Arsenal, I have them down as a win in this. There could be goals. Should be goals. Well, yeah, definitely should be goals. Arsenal's been playing really well lately. They lost last week, 1-3 at home to United last week. So, but they can always say they had the moral victory with their almost 5 expected goals in that one. Just weren't able to convert the chances that they had. So hopefully this weekend they're able to convert those chances. They won't be coming up against the unstoppable machine of David De Gea either. So, yeah. Have them down for some goals in that one, but their defense still looks shaky, and Southampton does have a fairly quick attack. It's just a matter of whether they can convert their chances as well. I know Liverpool has only allowed 2 goals at home all season in the Premier League, but this is the Merseyside derby, and Wayne Rooney is going to be playing in this one, and I think that he is a pretty good shout. I mean, if you don't want to bring him into your official game, he's one to look at for daily fantasy, some of the draft fantasies if he's available out there. Probably want to take a look at him. He is a player that I can see stepping up in this one. Obviously does not like Liverpool, so this should be an interesting one. I still think that Liverpool's going to come away with a win there. They just have way too many attacking threats. It'll just be a matter of whether or not Everton can really capitalize at the other end against what has been a shaky defense all season. Anyway, so then we have the Manchester Derby, the big match of the weekend. You probably want to avoid United players in this one unless you really want to take a risk. I mean, I know I've heard people out there saying that United could come away with a win. I just have a hard time seeing it without Pogba there. I mean, even with Pogba there, it would be a really tough match. Could see that being maybe more of a draw, but City's attacking options and the way that Pep has usually been able to get the wins over Mourinho, I think it's going to be a really tough match to watch, especially for United fans. I think City is really going to be on the attack throughout the entirety of this game, and could be one similar to Arsenal, but yeah, we'll see if United can hold on for anything out of that one. All right, so moving on. I'll start out with the top player analysis here, followed by then top players, followed then by looking at some of the informed players. So at the top here, if you run it down, top 10 stopping here at Aguero. Basically 113 points down to, I mean, you could put Lukaku there tied with Aguero and Ramsey at 79 points. Just below that, 78 points there. So Salah is really leading the charge, and his ownership percentage, 54.4%, shows that everybody is jumping on board with him. I'll have this up on the website, some of my analysis for this, but kind of broke it down based on their last 5 games and based on the last 3 games. Excuse me, sorry. So for the last 3 games, Salah is still on the top as far as these top players for points per game. He has an 8.3 over the last 3 games. Over the last 5 games at 11.2, and has even had 3 between game week 15 and 11 has 3 double point weeks there. The next closest to that is Kevin De Bruyne, who has 2 double point weeks. He has averages 7.4 points per game in the last 5 and 6.3 over the last 3 games. So kind of breaking it down, if you wanted to reorder them based on their last, we'll go based on their last 5 matches. Salah would be ranked number 1 there, followed by Kevin De Bruyne. Next up would be Raheem Sterling. Then after that, it would jump down for the last 5 games. Aaron Ramsey would actually move up there to, what would that be, 4th? Followed then by Alvaro Morata, David De Gea actually, then Antonio Valencia, Sergio Aguero, Harry Kane, and then Leroy Sané would be at the bottom of that list then over the last 5 games. Over the last 3 games, it changes a little bit more, with Salah still at the top, followed by Sterling. Aaron Ramsey would then be coming up next. Then we'd have Antonio Valencia, David De Gea, Sergio Aguero, Alvaro Morata, and then Leroy Sané at the bottom. So Leroy Sané has really dropped off. So while he might be 6th in overall points, over the last 5 game weeks, he has really tailed off to, the last 5 just 2.4 points per game, and over the last 3 just 1 point per game. That includes game week 14 that he sat out and then game week 13 where he had just the 1 point, and game week 11 only 2 points. So we could throw in Lukaku, Gross, and Azpilicueta, as well as David Silva in there. They would all come in above Leroy Sané. All of them except Lukaku would also then come in above Kane, and actually above Valencia and Aguero there too. So it kind of changes the look a little bit over the last 5. But then if you even go back to the last 3, Azpilicueta drops a bit because of the game that he got rested in there. And actually the rest of them do drop down a little bit as well. So I would say the big loss here is Sané, who has not performed well in recent weeks. All right, moving on to the top in-form players. So again, I'll have this up. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to put this up here in the video itself, but I can move this, change this to, where's the form? In-form. So you can kind of take a look here at their points. Hazard is the top in-form player at the moment, based on, you know, FPL point scoring here. And so again, I'll have all of my stats up on the blog here, but re-ranking them, it changes a little bit depending on whether you want to look at the last 5 or last 3. So going back over the last 5, Salah would still be in the top. He would be at the top, 11.2 points over the last 5. Hazard drops in second with 9 points per game over the last 5 matches. And that's then followed by both Coutinho and Ashley Young at 6.6. And then Raheem Sterling at 6.4. Gylfi Sigurdsson, 6.2. Mamadou Sakho actually jumps up here into this group for an average of 6 points per game. And then you have Skrodran Mustafi with 5.6. You could actually move Aaron Ramsey up in there at 6.2 points per game over the last 5. Now, this is the part that gets a little bit more interesting, is the last 3. Over the last 3 game weeks, Mamadou Sakho has 9.3 points per game. He is looking like one that would be a very good pick to go with. So we're just going to find him here. He has just 0.1% ownership at 4.9. Looks like a... Oh, sorry, that's my bad. Bakary Sakho. We don't really want him. Sorry, all the way up here at the top. So 5.0, good price range for a defender. You know, kind of there in the middle. Not the best, but at 1.8% ownership. That I think is fantastic value there. Probably somebody that you really want to look at picking up. Their upcoming fixtures, I have them looking pretty good through here up until you get to right around the Christmas time, against Arsenal at home, Man City at home. So even there could come away with some shocks due to the Christmas period being so congested. So he is one to definitely look at. I would say he is probably my top recommendation for this week, is bringing in Mamadou Sakho. Again, 9.3 points per game over the last 3 game weeks. If we then drop down here, let me bring this back up, go to inform all players. The interesting one here is Jesse Lingard, 5.8 for a midfielder. It's decent value. It's going to be tough here. 1.2% ownership makes him a good differential. It's going to be really tough to know if he's actually going to be playing. He has played in the last 5 game weeks. He has played in 3 matches. The thing that has really boosted his value is his last 2 game weeks. He's gotten 15 and 12 points. That puts him at the top for the last, or sorry, second for the last 3 game weeks with 9 points per game just over the last 3 game weeks, and that includes the match that he didn't even play in Game Week 13. So he would be an interesting one. It's really tough to say if he's actually going to start, though. So I could actually see him starting against City this weekend and possibly even against Tottenham. But some of these others, I don't really see him playing. Or sorry, not Tottenham. I don't really see him playing in any of these others in here. But there are usually better options. But his form could put him in the running for those matches. So for last 3 game weeks, we have Sacco at the top, Jesse Lingard. So Sacco, then we have Jesse Lingard. This is then followed by, so just looking over my numbers here, Salah at 8.3, and then both Sterling and Hazard have 8 points per game over the last 3. Then we go down to Ashley Young at 7.7. So he has another one that could be a decent pick here. 5.0 for a midfielder is a good price range. His 4.7% ownership is pretty good. The thing with him is he's basically playing as a wing back, and I think he will continue to play as wing back unless Luke Shaw somehow works his way into the team. So that is a possibility that Luke Shaw gets back in the team. He did play in the midweek match in the Champions League, but I don't know if that was just to get him some playing time so that they can sell him in January. Really hard to say. He could be more of a cup player, whereas Young will be more of their Premier League player. Yeah, it's kind of hard to say how Young's playing time will go. He has played lately, so probably worth a look to bring him in. The next one up here is Aaron Ramsey is another one. I think he is a good one to go with. 7.2 is kind of middle of the range, so hard to say whether or not you really want to pick him or go with somebody else. I mean, he's been reliable in recent weeks. Even picked up the 6 points in their loss last week. So I would definitely say to go with him. He is another one you might want to pick up in midfield. His ownership value is a little bit high, so if you're looking, he's definitely going to start more often than Lingard, though. So pretty much, I mean, he is going to be playing, so if you want somebody that's going to be playing almost definitely, then Ramsey is one to go with. Gylfi Sigurdsson is one that's at 7 points over the last 3 game weeks, 6.2 over the last 5. He's another one that I think you might want to look at picking up. Everton's starting to look a little bit better. After this weekend, they have a decent run of fixtures, even against teams like Chelsea at home, Manchester United at home, could be interesting matches to be able to go with him there. Coutinho is another one that some of his numbers are a little bit lower from being rested, but coming up over this Christmas period, I think he's going to be starting to play a little bit more. I think he was rested a little bit to get him prepared for this. 18 points last game week. Then back in game week 12 had 13 points. So he's another one that has had double point weeks over the last 5 games. His point tally over the last 5 is 6.6. Over the last 3 is 6.7. So looking pretty good. He's one that you might want to look at bringing in. Find him on here. 8.9 is a bit high, and his 9% ownership makes it's not really much of a differential. But if you compare him to Salah, he's basically the differential pick between Salah or Coutinho. Both of them are good good way to look for some points. It's just a matter of whether Coutinho can really keep it up. Last match, 3 assists and a goal scored. I mean, yeah, it's really hard to say how you really want to judge him. Sitting out a lot of matches this season, and again, it could be that he was just being prepared for this Christmas period coming up. So, yeah, that's kind of like that's the big wrap up for this week. I would say the 2 that you probably want to look at the most here is Mamadou Sakho. Obviously, Salah is one you want to look at, but I would say Mamadou Sakho for your defense, and then Hazard for the midfield. And then if you're looking for a forward, it's going to be really tough. Forwards lately have not really been doing well. As you can see, the next best forward as far as inform goes is Callum Wilson. So Tottenham does have good fixtures here, so you might want to just try to clear the room for Harry Kane. If you have him, definitely keep him. Definitely keep Harry Kane in there. Otherwise, I would say you might want to go with Alvaro Morata. They have probably the best fixtures over this next month. So he is one I already have. As you can see in my team, I already have Kane and Morata. I'm sticking with them. I will probably stick with Callum Wilson, and I'm thinking I might even, I don't know that I'm really even going to make any moves this week. I feel like this team is good enough for this game week. I will probably, and I should probably do it now. I thought I had Firmino in for Francis last week. Not really sure what happened. Actually, I thought I had Francis in for Loughton, but I'm going to put Firmino in there. Move Loughton over here. If he does come back, he is one that's may or may not be back this weekend. Otherwise, I think I like this lineup here. I'll have to decide whether I want to drop. Actually, I'm just going to do it now. I think I am going to put Tom Carroll in here. I mean, 4.5 or 4.4 now. Even if he picks up 1 point, he is probably the one that I will think about moving out of here. The other option would be to try to make room to bring in Sakho, like I had said, and then to move Carroll next week or the week after. Again, trying to plan ahead is something to think about. So, yeah, going back here, Sigurdsson would be a good pick here. If you're looking for a huge differential, Lingard is probably one of the best as far as midfielders go. At 1 point, I moved past him. Sorry, 1.2%. That's a pretty good differential. The problem with Ozil here at 2.2%, there's a reason he's 2.2%, and that is his 9.3 price tag. That's a little bit high. In recent weeks, he has done better, picked up the 17 points in game week 14, but just the 2 in their loss last weekend. So if you're choosing between some of the Arsenal midfielders, I would go with Ramsey. Lower price point, so much higher upside there. Yeah, that'll be my pick there. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for my player analysis here. Now, looking ahead, again, I need to update this, but I would say some of the best teams looking ahead here, definitely Chelsea. Crystal Palace have some decent fixtures, and their form has been a little bit better. They have some players that are in that mid-tier that you might want to think about bringing in. Arsenal, even against Liverpool, that Liverpool-Arsenal match is going to be very interesting. Can see goals from both sides. So Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea, great attacking threats. Great picks there. Manchester United, aside from this Man City, the Manchester Derby this weekend, I think they're a good pick. Again, Ashley Young is probably a good one there. Maybe even more so than Antonio Valencia. And I don't know if Lukaku's going to be coming back with the goals anytime soon, but if he does start to drop in price, it might be something worthwhile to look at him. Tottenham, they do have good fixtures. It's a matter of whether they can turn around their form. Some of the lower end mid-tier players, Watford, I like their fixtures in here. They're a good one to start thinking about bringing in. And Huddersfield is actually one that they're really a tough one. Losel in defense, in goal is a decent pick. But outside of that, like, it's so hard to know what to do with these guys. So it's hard to say. If you want to take a chance on one of these guys, you could go ahead and do that. But there's just so much of this swapping around players that don't get a lot of minutes. So I don't know. Hard to really say to go ahead and pick any of them. Their defenders might be the best place to go. Schindler is up there. Not price, total score. Moy is one that does get minutes, so he could be one to go with. But again, they're usually like 2 points out of them. Burnley, now that Brady's injured, going to be tough to say to go with any of their midfielders. And Bournemouth has a really tough set of fixtures in here. Leicester City could be one that you could look at picking up some of their other midfielders, Demarai Gray maybe. And then Everton as well has some interesting fixtures in there. Sigurdsson could be one to look at. So as far as captain's picks for this weekend, I would say Hazard or Morata, definitely good picks there. If you want to go with Kane, certainly nothing wrong there. I am actually going to go with Hazard this weekend, so I'm sure Kane will be the one that scores the goals this weekend. So if you did want something more of a differential, I would say you probably want to go with picking up Aaron Ramsey and going with him as captain. I think that would be a really good differential. His ownership, again, isn't super high, so he is actually at the top of their scoring, 9% ownership. I mean, as far as a midfielder goes, that's not really all that high. It's not exactly a differential, but I think he will be more of a differential captain's pick. Okay, well, I think that wraps it up for this week. I'm looking forward to the set of matches this weekend. I think there's some exciting games in there, and it should